But yeah, welcome everyone to Greens Organise Steering Group Hustings, the hustings for the most important internal election taking place this summer. Since we launched officially earlier in the season, we've grown to encompass thousands of members and supporters. And now it's time to elect our first steering group, the elected committee that's going to take Greens Organise forward for the next year until the following AGM. Greens Organise is a really young organisation and we've got loads of growing to do. And there are going to be loads of challenges involved in that. So it's really good that we're going to be hearing from all the candidates for the steering group this evening. Just quickly before we get started with that, if you are a member of Greens Organise and you joined before 5 p.m. on Saturday the 19th of July, then you're eligible to vote in the election. You should have received an email from OpenVote with a link to do that. So please do remember to vote before the voting deadline. And the deadline for voting is next Saturday at 5 p.m. More information about the election can be found on our website, and I'll put the link to the relevant web pages in the chat as well, so you've got access to those. So ahead of tonight, Greens Organise members who registered submitted questions, and I've selected some of those questions to put to the candidates. I've also sort of amalgamated some of them where they're on an obvious theme. First of all, I'm going to give each candidate a maximum of 1 minute to make an opening statement. And then after we've been through all the candidates there, I'm going to put members' questions to each of them, and they'll each have 1.5 minutes to give an answer to the question. Some candidates have been unable to attend for various reasons, and where they have, I've given them the opportunity to submit a pre-prepared statement. And so what I'll do is I'll read that statement out when we're doing opening statements in their place. Okay, so that's all of the preamble. So we're going to go on to opening statements now, and I'm going to go to Faiz Hassan first of all. Faiz.
Hi everyone, this is Faiz. I was born in Pakistan. I arrived in the UK in late 90s, worked in the financial sector, did a lot of data analysis and number crunching, was a lifelong socialist, became sort of very involved in politics around the Corbyn years, joined the Greens very soon after Starmer took over, and then really became involved in electioneering a lot after Gaza. My passion is election strategy. I am also standing as an election coordinator for the GPEX role. I believe in going after an election coalition. That's deep.
Thanks very much, Faiz. So the next candidate I'll go to is How Are You, Tam? How are you?
Hi everyone, hopefully you can hear me okay. Is that fine? So hi, I'm a campaigner, I'm an anti-oppression campaigner, I'm a writer, I'm a fairly new Green, formerly independent, formerly ex-Labour councillor based in Lewisham. I have had a background where I grew up with working class Chinese immigrant family, and as I've said in my statement, we grew up feeling very disenfranchised and like we didn't have much say in the world and the community around us, and so it's been really my life's work and effort to try and rewrite that story from one of disempowerment to one where we feel we belong and we can bring others with us. And so I didn't start off life as a socialist, of course, but I became one rapidly the more that I did community work and organising. I was inspired by Go, I was inspired by Zach and Mothin to leave the dark, dingy dungeons, torture dungeons of the Labour Party to join the Greens. And there's a whole kind of story there about how, why didn't I join sooner? And I think that the reason why is the reason why we're fighting for in Go for an eco-socialist party, because we're not quite there yet. And I think I can bring a lot of experience from my various roles as a trustee, as a charity worker, as an activist, and someone who can demonstrate having built locally in Lewisham and built on a sort of regional and national level with the Greens already. And it's just been 5 months, so I can't wait to continue that work further and in collective with everyone here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. How are you? We'll go to Beth Lewis now.
Hiya, I'm Beth. I joined the Green Party because of hearing about Greens Organise, so only, quite recently. I'm based down in Falmouth, so in Cornwall, if you don't know. Work-wise, like 9 to 5, I'm a sustainability educator, though currently just like in hospitality. I'm relatively new to organising within like the electoral politics space, but I've been an activist, since I've been an adult. I worked to demand that Exeter Uni worked towards net zero by 2030. I helped kind of organise the beginnings of Right to Roam Kernoth down here in Cornwall. And I've always been kind of involved in these spaces, and I think I'm a pretty good person in terms of speaking to others and like empathizing with others. And I thought, electoral politics felt like the right move next for my activism. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks very much, Beth. I'm now going to read out a statement from Emily Gullickson, who was not able to make it tonight, but has sent me a statement to read out. So I'm going to do that, and you're just going to have to imagine that it's her saying it. So, hi everyone, sorry I can't be there tonight. For those who don't know me, I'm Emily, I'm based in London, and I've been co-lead of the Democratise Working Group and a member of the interim steering group since May. You may have seen me co-hosting the What Next for the Greens event series and the Deputy Leaders Hustings, which I helped to organise. Tonight I want to give you 3 reasons why I've applied to be on the steering group and why you should vote for me. 1, I have organisation building skills. Now that Greens Organise has a membership, we need to build an effective organisation. This requires a range of skill sets and types of work, including research, project management, operations, coordination, event delivery, all of which I have a professional background in. 2, I'm new. Whereas other steering group candidates have years of Green Party membership, I'm very new to politics. I know that many of our members are also in my position, with many having joined the party this year and many being new to eco-socialist politics. We need these perspectives as much as we need those of people who've been in the game for years. And finally, I have time. So many of us have great ideas and strategies, but little time or capacity to do them. Over the next year, I'm in a position where I can dedicate a lot of time to go. Okay, that was Emily's minute. So I'm now going to go to Robert McGowan.
Hi everyone, yeah, I'm Robert. I helped set up Greens Organise last summer, based on the opportunity in front of us to become the leading electoral expression of a popular movement. I'd been involved in the Green Party for years. I joined back in 2014. I was involved in the Green Party trade union group, which I now chair. And I would come across people at conference and through GPTU who were socialists and interested in the Greens' role in socialist political strategy. But there really just wasn't much organisation of that, and certainly outwardly, that message wasn't being made clear, I felt, to the wider left, and so there was a gap for Greens Organised to fill. For me personally, since 2014, I suppose I went on a journey of radicalisation, seeing the treatment of Corbyn, just the escalation of the climate crisis, and realising that social democracy with an environmental conscience probably wasn't going to cut it. For Greens Organised, I think we've achieved a lot with barely any resources and a bunch of people who were already heavily involved in other party work. But we don't have those excuses now. We've got members, we've got resources, we've got a bunch of people, great people who are standing for the steering group and are going to commit a ton of time to Greens Organise. So we now need to take it to the next level, and that's what I'm committed to doing for the next year at least.
Thanks very much, Robert. We'll now go to Jenny Smith.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm from Yorkshire and I've been involved in Go since the launch in Manchester. I've been a Green Party member for longer than I'd care to admit, but found a new sort of political home within Greens Organise. In terms of what I've been doing for my life, I worked in the NHS for 10 years, and I worked with patients, and I worked with nurses, and in digital transformation, and also in accessible information so that people could actually understand how the service that they're using. I then moved over to the Greens, and I worked for the European Greens, the Global Greens, where I organised the National Congress in South Korea. And I now work for the Association of Green Councillors, supporting all of our councillors across the country to best serve their communities. Across all of those roles, there's been like a huge focus for me on like giving power back to the people through knowledge and through accessible information. And that's really at the core of what I want to do here with Greens Organise. I feel like Green Party, the language that we use, the policies that we have are not spoken about in a way that people can connect with. And so I think that open, honest communication should be at the core of what we're doing, and making our really people-centered politics that, for me, have the answers to the problems that we face today in society, and making that relevant to people that we want to vote for us. And that's really what I want to do here, and that's what I've already been doing as part of the Educate work. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jenny. Steve Jackson next.
Hello, everybody. I'm coming out. I'm going to try and show everyone. One of the things I've been doing here is scoping out venues for a Greens organised party at a conference. So vote for me if you want there to be a party. But I've been involved in politics, activism, organising for about 10 years, mainly stuff in migrant justice, trade union movement, defending trans rights, lots of other stuff. And I was never that drawn to party politics until just over a year ago, because of the rise of fascism in our politics, and kind of feeling like a lot of the work the movement was doing was kind of reactive rather than building towards something. And so I joined the Green Party, kind of acknowledging that it was imperfect, and I articulated positively my vision for the Green Party, where the way it could best step up to the political moment and build on successes of the past. And quite quickly got talking to people locally, nationally, was involved in setting up Greens Organised, got very involved on my local exec, lots of stuff in the local elections. It's no secret that I've been quite involved in Zach Lansky's campaign team. And I'm really proud and like honoured to have been a part of everything we've done so far. And I think Greens Organised has made a massive impact. And I think the Green Party is heading rapidly in the right direction. But it's so clear that we've got so much more work to do, and all of these stages, launching Go, writing our constitution, building our networks, now having a membership, and now this amazing, exciting Hustings, we're having elections. We've got so many members and we're having elections. It's incredibly exciting, but we have got so much work to do. We need to build our organisation, build our influence within the Green Party and beyond the Green Party to make our party a true voice of the popular movement, standing up for ordinary people, calling an end to the shuffling of deck chairs on the Titanics and the empty suits that are just seeing declining living standards and increasingly punching down. And yeah, I'm really excited that we've got a bunch of new energy. I'm excited for all of our members that are going to be part of that, and I hope to keep being a part of Greens Organised moving forward as well.
Thanks very much, Steve. We'll go to Dagan Smith next.
Hi everybody, I'm Dagan from Stroud District Green Party. Been involved with Go since the last conference where they launched. Was contacted by Robert and agreed to lead on the Digicoms group, which, as the name suggests, is responsible for Go's digital comms. We've got a strong social media presence now, still growing, on the way up in the right direction. Huge potential for increased engagement and mobilization. Outside of that, I also manage the website, help out with Action Network and Stripe, so all the fun stuff. I took a step back from Digicoms in May to lead on the paid membership infrastructure project, and whilst there is still a lot of work to be done there, the launch was a success, and that's really the point. To echo Steve's comment, there is a huge amount of work to be done, which sort of matches the amount of potential I think we've got in this moment with Greens Organise and the party as a whole. I hope you vote for me so I can continue to contribute towards Go's growth, establish and work towards implementing phase 2 of the membership infrastructure, project and more. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dagan. We'll go to Mahmood Nashbandi next.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Well, my glory days were in the 1970s. We drove the National Front off the streets of Coventry, Digbeth, Corby, Lewisham, and hence gave Margaret Thatcher an undivided right-wing vote, which she used to the worst of her abilities. Canvassing for the Greens in 2025 feels quite genteel by comparison, but we need to make voters take the Greens seriously, and Greens Organise gives us, the radical left, a voice. It puts batteries in our megaphone. Everybody here knows why, but Go is about what and how. For the what, right now, green policies are a random tangle of mixed and muddled pet projects. I want Go to pull our arguments together into a coherent position, one that gives the electorate a clear picture of the green left agenda. For the how, our targeting strategy and methods require a complete overhaul. They need to cut through to working people, to marginalised and ignored people, global majority, disabled, abused, the phobiaed off by the bigots, people who have no reason to vote for the old Victorian parties. We need a strategy which doesn't just buy their vote, but makes them our dedicated activists in our centre. And before we forget, Palestine is not a fringe issue. All those countries doing nothing are seeing how far Israel can go. When climate breakdown hits them hard, they will see that they can do the same to secure their own critical resources, whether it's land, minerals, water, or even air. And if that's not enough, at least note that someone here has to speak up for the boomers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll go to James O'Nions next.
Hi. Hi. Yeah, I'm James. I'm on the interim steering committee. I've been involved in Greens Organise since before it had a name, and quite heavily involved throughout the year, including trying to get together London meetups and what have you. I joined the Green Party at the beginning of 2024, but I've got 25 years of experience in socialist politics. I cut my teeth in the anti-globalization movement. I was the editor of Red Pepper magazine for 5 years, which is a independent, pluralist, socialist magazine with roots in feminism and green politics. And I am the head of movement building at Global Justice Now, where I do things that are highly relevant to being on this steering committee, help build local activism, run events, and think about strategy. We've got an enormous task ahead of us, as others have said. When Zach wins the leadership, there's enormous potential for Greens Organise to grow again. I think we need to do that. We need to start. We need to build out our organisation. I think there's a role for lots and lots of people who've got talent and energy to really get doing things. And I also think I'm particularly interested in the role of political education. I'm working right now on a webinar about green capitalism. And I've got ideas for a eco-socialist day school as well. So I'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, James. And last but by no means whatsoever least, I'm going to go to Jerome Cockstrong.
Hi everyone, I'm Jerome, he, him, based in Brighton. Over the last year, our values as an eco-socialist movement have been clear. We've been firmly standing for trans rights, disability rights, Palestinian self-determination, and for the 99% against the 1% breaking our system and killing our planet. And our values are key. But what will define us over the next year is how we make our stand and our commitment to building something that lasts, a movement that never settles and cannot be ignored. I've been getting stuck in across the board ever since getting involved, from supporting our comms outputs, campaigning on the ground during our local election campaign, playing a core role in developing and co-hosting our What Next for the Greens talk series alongside Rob, Emily and others, and done so many things alongside so many other great activists across the movement. Our power as a collective represents precisely what led me to the Green Party and what I'll continue to work for the Greens to become. Grassroots political education, action as well as elections, driving the Green Party to be fairer, firmer, bolder, and clearer. I want to be part of the steering group because I want to keep getting stuck in, and because I'm committed to continuing to build, fight, and work to lead from the front, to lead by stepping back. I want us to mobilise every single person who gets involved. I want to play my role in taking Go forward, and I hope you'll place your trust in me to do so. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jerome, and great timekeeping, and congratulations. Okay, those were the opening statements from each of the candidates. I'm now going to move on to the questions. As I noted at the beginning of the hustings, these questions were all sent in by Greens Organise members. In some cases, I've amalgamated them to make sure we get through as much as possible. And we're going to be asking those to candidates in a random order. So the first question, it concerns sort of growing Greens Organise over the next year. So bringing in new activists, keeping them engaged and empowering them to take action is going to be really important to Greens Organise success going forward. The question is, what kind of structures, culture and support need to be established in order for Greens Organise to scale up effectively? Okay, so I'm going to put that in the chat. And the question was, what structures, culture and support need to be established for Go to scale up effectively? And we're going to go to Dagan first of all.
So great question, and yes, totally agree. The next phase of growth is key. I think in terms of talking from a tech perspective, I think a infrastructure that is accessible, collaborative, and conducive to empowering the individuals and the activists that are willing to give up their time for Greens Organise. In terms of support, I think I like the idea of a relatively lean organization where really the activity is happening amongst the membership rather than a sort of core or top-down model. And culture, I think it's interlinking really with those first two elements. I think if we curate an environment where activists and members feel like their voice is heard and they can input, and if they've got capacity and the skill set to do something they want to do and they believe in, they can take that forward and do that themselves. I think that should be the key thing here, because yeah, not to bang the same drum, but there's a hell of a lot of work to do.
Great. Thanks very much, Dagan. We'll go to Faiz next.
Mute. Yeah, hi. I think that's a very interesting question. Obviously, we've had a big jump in Green Party numbers. I think we have had a jump in Go numbers. I think we need to make sure that they join Go, and we have to get a very active membership effort, but also get discussions going on their skill sets. What are they passionate about? What areas can they help in? And how well can they be integrated within the Green Party structure, but also make sure that if they are have ideas on comms, on electioneering, or in other areas, we encourage them to thrive. And I think that requires quite a flexible structure at the Go level. And I think I'm very encouraged by. I guess we'll have a working committee of 12 people. And I think that allows us to do that. And I think we're trying to avoid some of the problems that we've seen in other organizations, whether that's Labour or Momentum or even sort of the Green Party, where at times we become dysfunctional. And in some cases, I've seen that we actually suppress interest and talent, and we sort of say, no, that's not important, that's not our strategy, etc. So I think we need to be a much more flexible and welcoming organization.
Great, thanks very much, Faiz. We'll go to Robert McGowan next.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I suppose I'd add, so I'll separate it into infrastructure and then culture. So on infrastructure, I think a big thing for me is the choice between well, first of all, like let's make the infrastructure better than it is now. We need to move off WhatsApp groups. That we've been talking about this internally, but I hope everyone out there who's been involved in Go understands that we completely acknowledge that the like model that we've had up until now of using WhatsApp groups in order to bring people in and then like basically funnel people into WhatsApp groups is not ideal, and we need far better digital infrastructure to organize with. So that's the first thing that we need to do. I think related to that, we need to onboard people in a better way and like actually work out who are our good organizers. Like there's tons of policy people in the Green Party and we don't have enough organizers, and that me included, right? Like I come from a policy background and then eventually it's like, oh crap, right, I actually need to do some politics here. So we need to organize people, and we need to turn people into organizers themselves, and that has to be like the lifeblood of Greens Organise. It's in the name. But yeah, a key thing there is like where is the best time between where is people's time best used either in the party or in Greens Organise. I don't want to create a parallel organization to the Green Party, and if there's a way of improving what the Green Party is doing as a party, I would always go for that first rather than building something else, a prototype in Greens Organise. But where we can't do that, then it's necessary to build it first in Greens Organise. And then just on the culture, it has to feel more fun and more inspiring than most of what the party does at the moment. We have to get that right with Greens Organise, and I think in areas up until now we've been able to do that. The Taking the Fight to Reform video, I think, is an example of that, where a lot of people commented the first thing they notice is like it does not look like a Green Party video. They would have two white middle class people smiling at you, and this was a guy with tattoos in a pub. So we need to keep feeling different to the party, and the culture needs to be better.
Thanks very much, Robert. James O'Nions?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of culture, for the most part, I've found internal, discussions and what have you in Greens Organised to be quite refreshing and comradely, and long may it continue. I think, one thing I would note actually is that it's a real shame that there's no one who stood for this steering group from the north, who lives in the north of England. And that's a sign that we've got lots of members in the north of England. I think it's also, it shows in a way, we've had limited resources, and some of the the people most likely to stand have been involved and have had much more first-hand, by and large, had a much more first-hand experience of being involved in Greens Organised in the last year. So we need to, and it's very, capacity intensive, but we need to kind of build out those relationships. I do think there's a role for local groups in that. Like Robert, I don't want to reproduce unnecessarily party structures and so on. It can be quite informal, but people getting together and doing things, and as Greens Organised, will cohere an organisation that hopefully that spans the whole of the country. And also, I think, finding people who are prepared to work on particular projects, not people, not with broad remits in a big group, but, like people with specific roles and what have you, can really start to use the talent and energy that we've definitely got. It definitely shouldn't be down to the 12 people that get onto this steering group. It's like there's lots of people that can play a leading role in the organisation. So, yeah.
Thanks very much, James. Mahmood next.
Thank you. If we carry on like this, we'll have very little to add as we go down the list, because those are all big ticks in my estimation as well. I'll try and add a bit of new to this as far as I can. But yeah, in terms of structure, we do need to have a good collaborative technical infrastructure to work within, one that breaks down barriers of geography and so on. Absolutely agree that we need to have an open, not a hierarchical structure. We need to have mutually respectful debate and so on, and the ability to have that without any fear of being pushed into a corner. I think particular things that I'd add, though, one thing which I often come back to is from the Labour movement is the Workers' Education Association. That was a brilliantly successful model for mutual collaborative education in terms of the issues that face working people and their ability to progress. We can adapt that kind, I mean, that sounds very ambitious because it's a huge organization, but we can adapt something like that to be able to create content and the ability to deliver it, which covers all of the big issues that we want to propagate and explain to people what those issues are, how they work, and so on. So the WEA model is something, the Workers' Education Association model is something I really come back to. In a similar kind of vein, we need model practices for campaigning, and I'm not talking about target to win. I'm talking about the more practical aspects of actually communicating with people. We need to be able to propagate best practices for inclusivity, and that is a huge thing because, as somebody observed recently, Target to Win, in its modus operandi, it excludes people with disability. Anyway, so that really sort of brings things to a conclusion, really. But essentially, it's developing those kinds of capabilities and being able to propagate them through the Green Party, because obviously we're not separate from the Green Party.
Thank you very much. Jenny?
Yeah, hi, thanks. Great question. Like they say, I'm going to touch on a few different points that will have already been mentioned, but I think what was said around like the operational structure and the technology that supports that, something that's really important to make sure that members feel like they can feed in, that we can get new members on a good engagement journey that takes them from new member to volunteer to being a committed member of the organisation that contributes regularly and feels like they have a voice and can propose ideas and then follow them through. I think the regional structure or local party structure is also really important to make sure that we're connecting with different local parties within the Green Party, but also so that Go members feel like there's people in their area that they can connect with, which they could then have in-person events with. I think that even after COVID, it feels like it's a million miles away now, but in-person events are still so important after that experience, and it's really making sure that they're accessible and that people can access them, really important. All of this is reliant on good fundraising and getting money to pay for it. So I think like, yes, our membership money will be incredibly important, but finding external fundraisers who are interested in supporting the cause, really important. And in terms of my experience in all of this, like I'm a network builder. I've done national and international networks within the NHS, within the European Greens movement building. And I think that I could really contribute to taking us to the next level. Thanks.
Thank you very much. How are you next?
Yeah, I would echo there's been so many amazing ideas so far. And I mean, we know that we came second in 37 seats across the country. And I think, you know, how I started becoming more involved was Robert actually set me up with some Lewisham Greens Organise people. And we really kind of took it from there, and it's grown and grown. I think we have something like 20 something members, and then we've got a wider group that's sort of like a left-wing social space. So that functions as a way for us to not only debate and have ideas and talk about how do we support each other in a strategic way, but it's also kind of a way to care for each other. And I think that's really important, that we do embed more care into our culture and our systems. It does look sometimes as informal as checking in, you know, like people like Faiz, people like Muslim will just kind of give me a ring. Even if they see that I don't look okay or something, it can be as informal as that, all the way through to we know that there are members who have been through very difficult things in terms of like complaints and needing to kind of maybe find a way to institute some more support so that we can actually keep recharging our movement, because clearly it's a very sort of draining task ahead of us. So yeah, I think that there's something there about maybe following the TWT model where they had different festivals across the UK. Maybe we could look at doing something like that. I don't know if we've proposed to do something for this year's TWT so that we can actually get more connected across movements and showcase what we're doing. But yeah, I think that definitely touring around the country, especially as James was saying, focusing on the north where we do have a lot of members and activists, but maybe it's not as like Go is seen as a bit more southern coded, and I think that that's something that we can shift over the next year. I am a organizer. I'm less of a policy person, so I think there's kind of that balance there that we can find, and as well as that, I think where we have structural issues where we come up against that, we can draw on other members and even like influencers, if you like, have a skills audit so that we can draw on the power of the movement. Because what's been so powerful about Go Comms is that there's been so many similar faces that, like, you know, people that we know have been featured and been allowed to weigh in. So let's continue doing that and amp it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve?
Cheers, Matthew. God, you're brilliant. And to answer the person's question in the chat, TWT is the World Transformed. It's a political education festival. But the answer to the question, since we started Greens Organise, it pretty quickly went from 30 people to thousands of people overnight. And the kind of most frequent query that we've had, that I've had, has been people going, "This looks amazing. How do I get involved?" And I think we've, in some ways, shot ourselves in the foot because things have often looked really shiny and put together. And behind the curtain, it's like the structures, I very much acknowledge, haven't been up to scratch. We've tried lots of things to address that, because fundamentally, if we could turn that energy, that spirit, that enthusiasm into output, for want of a better word, into activated volunteers and activists, then that's how we win. The way I like to approach this question is for Greens organisers, I think of what we've got centrally and what we've got decentralised. So centrally, that's the steering group, that's working groups, that's networks we coordinate, that's the things like our upcoming annual general meeting, where we'll hopefully our members will be able to shape Greens organisers' strategy. That's things like empowering members to get involved in national leadership elections, get involved in conference. That's the central stuff. But then we've got, which is just as important, perhaps more important, the decentralised stuff. That's essentially, and I really hope it looks like local groups across the country, as others have mentioned. And I think the role of the central activity is to provide sort of the maximum amount of support with the minimum level of bureaucracy to enable the maximum amount of activity for our members, because I really just believe that our mission is essentially to turn everyone into an organizer. I think other people have said this, to just instill what I call chutzpah, a spirit of like doing things, of being able to do things and be connected to each other and overcome those structural barriers. And we've got a lot of work to do building structures, building infrastructure, modeling a positive, inclusive, collaborative, exciting culture centrally as a steering group, but also so much work for all of our members on this call as well. And I'll wrap up.
Thanks very much. Jerome next.
Yeah, I think a lot of great points have already been made. I think, as Jenny mentioned, there's a lot behind the scenes that's really, really key. Obviously, Dagan has been a real key part of that as well, I should say. I think culturally, I think we have a sense of what we want to accomplish in terms of kind of intervening in the party, having action, developing things on so many different levels. But I think beyond that, there are questions for us as a collective to maybe figure out about how we take the step and how we make that happen. I think how we mobilise local groupings beyond just our local sort of popular locations, as people have mentioned, the North has been underrepresented in terms of these elections. I think there's a real clear learning point there. I think we can learn a lot from both our own experience as organisers, but also other movements that come before us. I think I'm reminded a lot of a story that was told by, I think, Sarah Harper Riches, who was involved in Momentum York on a call for Democratise a few months ago, talking about how they had been really keen to make themselves indispensable to the local party, so that when it came to these more agitative moments, these are the people who are getting things done. These are the people who are campaigning hard. These are the people who sort of held up the local party, so that when it came to having those tough conversations, which we need to have, they are the people who you've been alongside as comrades on the front lines. But I think Rob also made a great point that we're kind of within alongside the Green Party, but we're not directly the Green Party. And so I think that brings challenges, but it also means there's opportunities both culturally and structurally about what we can do differently to be inclusive, as how you mentioned, to talk about care, to be accessible, to really look at what we want to build next. There are structures that is also cultural, bringing people together, getting people on the Green Party, getting out on the doors, having a bit of action, all comes together. And I think we've got really exciting ways to do that in the future.
Thank you very much. And last but not at all least, Beth.
Hey, oh my gosh, there's been so many things that people have mentioned that have been really positive. I think my main point is that I think it'd be really important to show someone that's not involved how organising can actually be a lot easier than it seems from the outside. I think, just based on previous campaigns that I've been involved with, people don't label themselves as an organizer or an activist for so long, and actually it's much more natural to work within your community than people seem, and those are the people that we want to be involved in electoral politics. We need new voices, we need new perspectives, and we need people that feel like they don't belong to be involved and feel like they can say what they want to say. I think, from my perspective as joining this group, I've identified as a socialist for a few years, but I still think that we have so much work to do in making this more accessible and simpler, and using simpler language, and not assuming that people know what we're talking about and what things mean and what Greens Organise is as well, and what the Green Party stands for as well. I think just simplifying things so much more and being clearer. I think we could be cheekier and funnier and more challenging towards the Green Party and towards social media in general. I think bringing that kind of energy is something that, when you look at our country, I think we do have those traits as a culture. And I think if we could tap into that, I think it's much more exciting and much more fun to log on each day and know that you can be a bit humorous with these things. Onboarding wise, I think it would be great to have more check-ins with new people, and for me, I got more involved because I knew that there were people locally that were interested. So if we can identify who's in your local area that's part of GEO already, I think that'd be a great way to get new people involved. I'll stop there.
Thanks very much, everyone. Okay, I'm going to move straight on to the next question, and I'll be changing the order of the candidates as well. So the next question is, after Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn announced the launch of a new left political party, there have been a lot of conversations about the potential for collaboration between the Green Party and this new party as it takes shape. In your view, how, if at all, should Greens Organise intervene strategically in those discussions? And how would you respond to calls for engagement with a new left party? So I'm going to go to Jerome first of all.
Tough one, a fun one. I think it's a question on everyone's lips, right? We've all been building something over the last year, and then suddenly along comes this thing, and there's lots of questions about what we do about that. I think there's lots of different questions to be asked, but I think the key point is remembering what we are building as well. I think there's absolutely room for collaboration. There's absolutely need for collaboration between different movements which are fighting for the same goal of eco-socialism, of taking on the 1%, of taking on corporate fat cats. How we intervene in that, I think, depends on which levels we're talking about. I think on a macro level as a movement, there is a power to what we've been building. And especially if, as we all hope, I hope on this call, a certain outcome happens in the leadership election, there's going to be even more power there. But equally, as I said before, we're not directly that. We are adjacent to what's happening at that level. And I think our power to intervene kind of is a bit further down. I think it's not so much about saying we want this to happen. I think about is looking at things on a structural level and getting those interventions happening, and in local areas, looking at local Greens organised movements, working with local your party or name insert here movements, and looking at how those collaborations work, and where it does work for one to step aside for the other, we have those conversations ourselves. Where it doesn't, we work together. I think there's lots of ways we can do that, but I don't think it's just at the top level in terms of the big names. I think it comes from all of us having those conversations, which in some ways we've already been having. Down in Brighton, there was kind of a smaller movement, collective action, that some people have been talking to already. Kind of maybe some complicated conversations there, but in the future, those conversations can maybe be less complicated because we have a power to our movement to work with them as a collective.
Thanks very much. We'll go to James next.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing we could look to, people may have seen the Hackney Green Party's just launched. Zoe and Dylan's run to be the mayor of Hackney, deputy mayor of Hackney, and they've done that with the backing of the Hackney Independent Socialists, who are a group that sort of split away from Labour, and almost certainly will become part of this new left party. That came off the back of some, negotiation and talking to them and working together on the council as well. And that's been, actually all our Hackney all the Green Hackney councillors are a Go comrades, So it will look different in different places, but that's not to say that we don't need something at the national level, and that's over the slightly longer term something that the party needs to be in the right place about. And I think Zach being elected will send a strong signal about that. We don't know fully what that's going to look like from the other side, but I think yeah, it's an interesting. We definitely need collaboration, is what I'm saying. I don't think that it necessarily will look the same in every place, basically. So, yeah.
Thanks very much, James. We'll go to Steve next.
Amazing. Such a good question. So, I mean, there's some obvious caveats. A new party doesn't exist yet. I do expect it to exist pretty soon. And we don't know what it's going to look like, and it's a complicated coalition of people setting it up. Those caveats aside, if this party does become one that aligns with our politics, shares a mission, then I think there's two fundamental questions that we've got to answer, which is, one, do we want to work together? And two, what does that look like? And the reason I'm separating those two things out is because they are two different conversations, two different sets of strategic interventions internally and externally. And by the way, people in the Your Party camp are having the exact same conversations and going through the exact same dynamics, albeit with nascent structures rather than ours, which is quite well set up. And I think fundamentally, what we quite quickly need to do, and I really hope if elected that we can work together as a steering group on a set of proposals or a process where our members can come to a conclusion, and then we can put that to our AGM, which is in about 6 weeks, I think, so that our members can actually vote on something, so we can advocate a position with some actual weight that has had people's buy-in. And then I think there's all sorts of strategic interventions we can make within the party and beyond the party to lay the ground for whatever form of collaboration on a national and on a case-by-case local basis that we want to see. We can organise public events, we can do policy interventions, we can do lots of different things. And conversations have kind of been ongoing. I can wrap up there. I love this little hand gesture, Matthew.
Thank you. I'm glad it's. I wasn't sure whether it was being noticed or whether I was just sort of doing it for myself. Anyway, how are you next?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we've already got Greens in those conversations, and with Zach and Mothin being elected, and hopefully other people, they have very much strongly signalled that they want to take this forward. Also, FIES has proposed an electoral alliance motion, so I think if we all kind of get engaged in that debate, that will be very, very helpful. I agree that it's going to be a very case-by-case basis. There are constituencies and where this is already happening, and what we need to do is reach out. I think obviously, like we said, Hackney is doing very well. I think Camden is doing pretty well, but maybe some other places need our attention, like Ilford, where there is historic hurt or anger. Maybe I should say not hurt, but just frustration. And like I think West London as well, potentially. So there needs to be a sort of mediated conversations, or just an attempt to bring together the independents where they're strong, and the local Green parties where they're weaker, and vice versa, where the Greens are stronger and the independents would do well to sort of work with us more closely. We need to make sure that we get in the room with the unions. I know this is something that Rob and others, Matthew as well, you're working very hard on. Yeah, I would like to know how we're getting on with like Ian Hudson and people like that, because Jeremy did that interview where he was talking about working together with the unions, and there was some worry that it would be kind of a bit of a repetition of how things were before because of how bureaucratized unions are. So yeah, like there's the case by case basis, like empowering local groups, and like maybe work to map out different constituencies, particularly like key ones where we think both Greens and Independents can do well in, and see those conversations, have those public events and those debates. I think that's good, because there is a lot of kind of among the left people saying, oh, the Greens are just electoral pact breakers, which is a lot of stereotyping, but that kind of ill feeling requires dialogue openly to dislodge. Wrapping up soon. And then on the national level, I think we've been doing really well in terms of the communications, and what we can just, I think, do more of is spotlighting places where it's working, spotlighting areas where we've shown that we can have the humility to learn and do better next time. So yeah.
Beth, next.
I think out of anyone in the Green Party, Greens Organise are the one people that would be able to speak to this new party. And I think that we should be confident in our identity. I also think we should avoid feeling nervous about any kind of competition here, because any kind of preconceptions we have about this party, we don't want to act on those prematurely. And I also think I've joined Geo because there's a community here, and I would like to be held and supported by this community, and we're already here, so we're lucky to have found each other. And I think there is a parallel community that's probably going to do some great things, but we have our own community that is very unique and very important, and working kind of on that identity is more what I'm focused on. Maybe that's a bit of a tangent from the question, but I think collaboration is the obvious answer, the logical answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Robert, please.
Yeah, thanks. Shocked that this question has come up. Can't believe it. First thing I would say is admit failure. I think we really need to. I mean, we will all be frustrated that the party hasn't taken advantage of the space that was clearly there on the left, the Green Party, I mean, up until now. But I think we have an argument to make it within the party that people need to recognize that and acknowledge that the level of enthusiasm for the new Corbyn Sultana party, the number of sign-ups, the media coverage, the indications from the polling, especially the level of support from young people, all of that points to a space that the Green Party hasn't been able to occupy. And that should force everyone to look at how the party's been operating until now. And I think it vindicates a lot of what Greens Organise has been saying. But I think we that's the first thing that we should be arguing internally. And then second thing I think we should be pushing for is engagement from a position of strength. Over the last few years, especially with the Unite to Remain debacle, I think there's been a bit of sectarianism is built up in the Green Party, a bit of greenism where it's the Green Party or bust. And it's our own like loyalty to the party that's coming before anything else. And so there's that resistance to working with any other group. The difference now is that we are in a much stronger electoral position. It is very different to 2017 to 2019. And in the even Corbyn, even Zara Sultana, even James Schneider, even Andrew Murray in New Statesman the other day, all of them saying we have to work with the Greens. It's a prerequisite to work with the Greens. That makes this completely different territory to where we were in 2017 to 2019. So yes, we should have humility. We should get over the fact that that Corbyn didn't want to work with the Greens in that period, and now get our ducks in a row to make that engagement happen, acknowledging the much stronger position that we're in now. So we've already been speaking to We Deserve Better, who are there already supporting this idea of an alliance. So that's great. I think we're well placed to mediate all those discussions. I think we need to work out the exact mechanics of cooperation. Like, what does it look like? What can we learn from the New Popular Front in France? And crucially, I think, and this is something, oh, disagreement alert,
If you could,
that I,
Sue.
Matthew, you wouldn't interrupt me for a disagreement point. We have to have some disagreement. No, I will finish. But just to say, I don't think FIS's motion grapples with the fact that we need some balance between local party autonomy, which is the current position, and national coordination of a deal. That's the thing that we need to work out, and we need to make the case for something internally and get a motion passed in conference that enables us to make a deal nationally while retaining local party autonomy.
Thank you. Faiz next.
Yep. Look, I agree with most of what has been said. I think we have to collaborate. The risk of the far right is far too great. Labor is falling apart far faster, and our organic growth strategy is not capturing the opportunity set. And that's why there's been such a response to the Corbyn announcement. I think we have complementary strengths. I think Corbyn's party is still sort of mired in fractional sort of debates, etc. And the May 26 elections are fast approaching, and they'll really struggle to get enough of the 5,000 candidates that are needed. While we as Greens have a nationwide structure, we have an ability to due diligence and select candidates. And so, what I'm very keen to do is have an alliance where we can sort of have the advantage of their activists supporting our candidates, and them benefiting from our ability to field people. So and I think this is what we should be focused on, and I'm more interested in a nationwide alliance discussions. I think this piecemeal party by party approach, I think, is quite suboptimal. I'm very supportive of the Camden talks and also the Hackney talks, but those are more about non-aggression pacts in a subset of wards within Hackney and Camden. And the problem with that approach is that nearly sort of 50% of Hackney is outside those non-aggression pacts. So it's quite suboptimal. And I think what we have in front of us, especially in London, is there are 1,100 Labour seats, and Starmer has been losing about 50 to 60% of the seats. So we should be aiming for 500, 600 seats, but our current target to win strategy is based on 120 seats. So there's a massive uplift that we have to go for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dagan.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there is so much here that isn't. It hasn't been decided. You know, they've got to decide a party name. They have to. There's a huge amount of work before we even know what is happening in terms of that part of the movement. But that's my point. I think it is part of the movement, and I think whilst there is a huge amount of frustration in the fact that Green Party hasn't been, you know, the party that has been in the right place at that moment. I think the influence that Go has achieved thus far has actually put, you know, not taking sole responsibility for it, but has put Green Party in a much better position for this moment. You know, the left movement doesn't need a monolith to lead it. I think it can be made up of more than just a single sort of populist party. I think there's, you know, there's been comments in the chat about how both, well, I'm going to call it the mailing list for now because it's not actually a party; it's just a massive mailing list. You know, there's the Zara Project, and the Greens. They can reach different people. So you know, I think it's a positive thing. I think it's a huge opportunity, and you know, we need to stop Farage getting into number 10. We need to defeat the rise of fascism, and I think it feels like things are falling into place, you know. So collaboration, absolutely agreed. But let's wait and see.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree that nobody knows what this is going to look like. Yeah, and that even within those two camps of Jeremy and Zara, they seem to be saying different things on different days. So I'm ready to wait to find out what it really looks like. I think a lot of Greens have been like very seriously burned over the years by Labour, and not even just burned, but like bullied by the Labour machine. And I think if we want to bring everyone on this journey, which I truly do, a lot of Greens are going to need assurance that it's not just going to be the same, can I say shit, different arsehole? Like that. So I think they really need that assurance, and I think we need to create, understand and use language that people can engage with, and them understand that this is a different kind of left party, and that it's not the same Labour machine, and that they're gonna embrace grassroots politics at its core, which for the Greens, our core is collaborative. Like, Greens have always been smaller parties, and we know that we have to either find people that we can work with, or we have to find common ground on different issues so that we can get our agenda into mainstream politics. And that's what happens across Europe. I know as an Association of Green Council, as national coordinator, that this already happens on a local level. Loads of different councils already work with different parties, either on single issues or as part of a group, or working with independents. So at local level, it's already happening. Nationally, it would be amazing. For me, a united left is the only thing that we can have to push through not only the like green agenda, the socialist agenda, the systemic change that we need, but also to push through proportional representation so that everybody in this country has a meaningful vote, and that we no longer have safe seats. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. And last but by no means least, Mahmood.
Thank you. Just a quick sort of reality check, stating the obvious, but Go is an arm's length organisation from the Green Party, so we're not in a position to tell the Green Party what to do in terms of its relationship with your party, whatever their party. And that's true at the national level. It's also true at the local level. We need to remember the importance of local party autonomy. But that has a plus side as well. It means that we are in a good position to be able to put the case together coherently, to put the pressure on, apply the logic and the rationale to the national party, as well as to regions and to local parties. We, in our own right as Greens Organise, are in an excellent position to create a bridge, to create the communication channels, and to do so on a case-by-case basis, because I'm sure that alliance or collaboration will have to finish up on a case-by-case basis. Yeah, I think we're in a good position to do that, but we are not the determining factor in this. We can help to create the conditions and create the communications.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have time for one more question. So I'm going to put that now, and we'll go around the candidates one last time. So that question is, the Green Party is currently holding elections for leader, co-leader, and the executive committee, and the positions of leader and deputy leader in particular are very hotly contested. So in your view, how should Greens Organise's approach differ depending on who wins the Green Party's leadership positions? And we'll go to How You first.
Sorry, do you mind putting it in the chat? And then I can have a think. Yeah, how should our strategy differ? Well, I guess if Adrian and Ellie win the leadership election, that will be a bit of a setback in terms of the credence and the value that is accorded to community organising. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it would mean that we have to contend probably with people leaving the party if that happens. I know anecdotally quite a number of people would be like, we've been moving backwards. So there'd be some effort there, I think, to ensure that we nothing changes, as in we still kind of progress the motions, the conversations, and we'll have to kind of go into overdrive. But yeah, where we can't retain people, I think we just have to keep those links, and that's where those local groups will really come in important. And I think also make the case, like I was saying, you know, mapping every constituency, or maybe not mapping every constituency, but like key ones. So we should definitely convince people in Lewisham, you know, we came second in every seat. So I mean, you may want to do things with your party, but actually it makes much more sense for you to stay in the Greens and do something with us. I think that the other deputy leaders that we may get, and the other GPECs, I mean, just in general, you have a more kind of like conservative approach, a more kind of incrementalist, greenist approach. I think that's a really good way to put it, that someone described on this call. And what we've got to do is make sure that we platform more global majority candidates, sorry, not candidates, but like members in general, and work. I think have more socials, more events that we can like maybe do in partnership with other groups as well, so that we can lean upon their resource a little bit. And just, I think, keep building the brand, and maybe, like I said, strengthen in particular locations, because yeah, I do think if we have less progressive leadership, that will make our work more difficult when there is this kind of like open gateway of this new party. So therefore we've got to shift our gears into like making sure that we're in the rooms, and where we're not in the rooms, like knocking on the doors, like demanding to be inside. And yeah, like I think just conversation, it can be done that way. Yeah, it's a really difficult question. It's a reality that I don't want to contend with, but yeah, those are my thoughts so far.
Thank you. We'll go to Beth next.
That is a difficult question. I didn't expect that. I think if the people we want to get in, I hope that we don't become complacent. I hope that we see the opportunity that is there and keep going, and keep building. I think that, you know, if we do get the more conservative leaders in, then it might lose, well, it will lose the Green Party some members. It won't show the progress that I think is being built. I think it will give kind of the wrong image of what's actually going on. I think that people, you know, the more conservative leadership of the party, I don't think they're people to, you know, to turn away from. I think, you know, they're here for a reason, and they're in the party for similar views to us. And to be honest, I just think it's about trying to empathize and be empathetic and logical, and figure out why they're coming from that place and why it's different, and keep on building that grassroots effort. But I also think it's probably a good opportunity to get new members from the Green Party into GO to, you know, really kind of repeat our messaging and why we exist in the first place. I think, you know, we could use the not so good election result in that way as well, communications wise.
Thank you very much. Mahmood.
I'll make this easy. Everything that how you said, underlined in bold italics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You win the timekeeping award for tonight. Jenny.
Thanks. As a current staff member, I'm not allowed an opinion on the leadership elections or the deputy leadership elections or any internal elections. So my answer is that whoever wins, the role of Greens Organise is absolutely vital in increasing engagement, continuing to grow membership, helping people within the party currently and who are new members understand the party and how they can actually meaningfully engage with that, and how they can drive change, and how they can input their expertise, and how they can make the Green Party a more people-centred, more grassroots organisation than it already is. It's going to be absolutely vital in increasing diversity within candidates for local level elections, national elections, and also within the staff team, because that's also something that's really important. And we want to make sure that the leadership understand that that's a really vital thing for us, and likewise increasing membership of the union within the staff team. So my neutral opinion is that, and I thank you for having me tonight. And if that's the last question, thanks everyone. Please vote for me. And Greens Organise is great, and so are the Greens. And tell all your mates.
Thanks very much. Fides?
Yeah, I think a lot of the great comments have already been made. I think the key is if Zach does not win, I think it will be a setback for the left within the Greens and widely. But luckily, then it's just a one-year term, and we should redouble our efforts and be the flag bearer of the left within the Green Party. And on the deputy leadership, again, I think it's a important contest because, frankly, if we end up with an all-white leadership team, I think that would make it very difficult for us to engage with global majority voters and also sort of working class voters. So these are very important elections. Please get everybody to vote who has not voted already. But I think the Green Organized work will just get far, far tougher, but more critical if the results come out in the wrong way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just as a sort of brief interlude, I've been meaning to say this when I posed the question, but the question was posed fairly neutrally, and just for the avoidance of doubt, Greens Organise isn't officially endorsing any particular candidate. Just want that to be clear for anyone listening. Okay, Dagan next.
Yeah, I will echo that by saying that I'm completely biased because I've, like Steve, been involved in Zach's campaign. So I would obviously like for Zach to become leader of the Green Party. I think it's a good point made in the chat that it is just a one-year term. So if it doesn't go Zach's way, I think we double down. I think, like I said previously, it becomes more critical. That being said, if it goes the other way and Zach does become leader, I think it's obviously clearly a different opportunity, and I think it's a case of being able to deal with the influx, really, because I think if Zach does win, I think we're going to see a big influx of members, certainly for the party, but I think for Greens Organised too. And like I said, in a previous answer, it feels like this is a big piece of the puzzle that is seemingly falling into place. Yeah, let's all vote.
Thank you. James next.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it would be extraordinary at this stage if Zach didn't win. And this is where Steve shouts at me about complacency or whatever. But we've got, nobody really knows, but probably the party's membership has gone up by at least 10,000 in this course of this leadership campaign, which is also a pretty extraordinary figure. In those circumstances, we've got a real role to play in saying, fantastic that Zach is doing this, but we also have just having one person at the top saying the right thing is not enough. We need that grassroots movement. We need a Green Party which is relating to properly to trade unions, to racial justice movements, to all sorts of other movements on the ground, and so all those people, we've got an opportunity for all those people who have joined to vote for Zach. We need to be making a case to say, and now get involved, and now be active. Yeah, and just echo Pfizer's point as well about the importance of not having a leadership which is all white.
Thank you. And Steve next.
Okay, so to reiterate what Matthew said, Greens Organise is completely impartial. As an individual personally, I am very much partial. And it is very important to say, if you have a certain vision of who you want to win these elections, absolutely vote and tell everyone who is eligible to vote, because it is not a sure thing in any direction at this point in time. For the sake of being novel, I'm going to say that the outcome of the elections, if we have three leadership, a team of three in the leadership and a slate of GPEX people who are aligned with Greens Organise or not, it changes nothing and it changes everything. It changes nothing because Greens Organise has a vision of diversifying the party, making the party louder, bolder, angrier, playing a critical part in halting this slide into dystopian fascism, a critical part as part of a wider left. Greens Organise has a vision, as constitution and a politics. Whoever wins this leadership election, there's a mantra in the trade union movement, which is elect them today, fight them tomorrow. Whoever wins, we are going to have a role in pushing them, whether it's helping them, whether it's pushing against them. We are going to have a really critical role to play. And that's not because we necessarily disagree with them ideologically, but it's to counterbalance the moderating influence of holding a national office. There's going to be all sorts of stakeholders in their ears pushing them in certain directions, and we need to be a counterbalance to that or a reinforcement to it. So it changes nothing on one level. On the other level, of course, it changes everything. If we get a scenario, the day-to-day becomes so much more difficult, and our mission becomes so much more critical.
Thank you very much. Robert.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that others have said. I think we're in extremely difficult territory if Adrian and Ellie win. I think it's essential that Zach wins, so I would encourage everyone to go and encourage all their mates who are in the party who've joined recently, whatever, to vote for Zach. I would also like to see Mothin win. As Beth said, we need to show outside to the outside how the party's changed in recent years, and the current of Muslim Greens and Greens for Palestine, like they've been massively influential and hugely constructive, and I think that the leadership team should reflect that. Rachel Millward is my other choice for deputy leader, if you're interested. It does, in a way, I think if Adrian and Ellie win, it does undermine to an extent what Greens Organise has been saying since the start. Like when we had that launch in Manchester, we were pretty, the way we communicated it and the numbers that we had at it, we felt like, and we occupied the space as if we were the energy of where the party is. And so I do think it really does set us back. So yeah, it does risk that we become the party political arm of just soft environmental NGOs who aren't willing to challenge capital and the establishment. But as others have said, leadership election next year, so we organise towards that. There are lots of people who will stay in. It would read as to the outside, if Adrian and Ellie win, as a vindication of what they've always thought of the Green Party, which is Tories on bikes. But that we are a broad church, and we won't be a party full of Adrians and Ellies if they win the leadership election. So I think that's the thing for Greens Organise to work on. Yeah, we probably have more to do, but under either scenario, as Steve says, we have an absolute ton to do.
Thank you. And to close out the hustings, Jerome.
Yeah, I think people have made lots of really good points, so there's not necessarily too much need to relitigate on some things. I think we're all clear, hopefully, as individuals, that one result here aligns with our values and one absolutely doesn't. I think at the start of the campaign, that was clear. As the campaigns got on, the misery of seeing some of the shit they've been coming up is mind-blowing. I think in terms of the result, I think it's not so much existential in terms of result, so much as in terms of how that result plays out. I think if it's a narrow margin where Adrian Ellie win, it's really gutting, but I think it shows that we just need to fight harder. As some people have said, it's a year term. If that particular narrow is what happens, we need to fight harder. And I think a model of the worst case scenario in that situation is what we've been doing over the last year. Obviously, one half of the leadership has already been there, and we've already been making inroads and making a movement to get to the point we are tonight in that situation. I think in terms of the team, I'd echo what people have said about the deputies. I've been working on Rachel Millward's campaign, but I'm keen to see a leadership team of Zach, Rachel Mothin, for the reasons stated about needing to have inclusivity and representation of global majority backgrounds. I think, as Steve kind of said, it will and it won't. I think in terms of how things change, part of that win is about this top level image, about validating who we are as a party, but part of it's about validating a grassroots movement on the ground. And I think a win for that doesn't mean it's happened. It means we need to get to work making that happen and proving that we were right to back that approach. So either way, we need to get stuck in. Either way, Greens Organise has a massive role to play. And either way, we're not going away. We're not going to be ignored. We're going to keep fighting for a Green Party that is eco-socialist and does stand up for people and doesn't do stupid stunts with scales outside of the stupid building and actually kind of makes a bit of cut through on so many levels. But as I'm finishing, I'll say thank you, Matthew, for hosting it. Everyone voted for me. Everyone voted for everyone else. That was amazing. Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks very much, Jerome. Yeah, you've stolen my thunder, but thank you very much to all the candidates for coming and speaking. And for those who couldn't attend, to those who sent in statements to be read out as well. It's been really productive and really enlightening. I hope it's been useful to all the members who came along, and I hope it helps you to decide how to cast your votes. So before we close out, I just want to remind you that the deadline for voting in the Greens Organise election, not the Green Party one, is next Saturday at 5 p.m. That's 5 p.m. on Saturday, the 16th of August. So please do vote in that. You have an email in your inbox from OpaVote. And if you can't find it, please reach out to the ero@greensorganise.uk and I'll try and help you. There is also a page on our website which goes through all of this in detail. And if you want to know more about steering group candidates, you can read their election statements also on our website, and I've put a link to that in the chat. Some of them have also shared their social media channels and emails and what have you. So if you have further questions, you can reach out to them there. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you so much to everyone for coming along on a Saturday evening, and until next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks, Matthew.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
See ya.